Keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night. Adam Pecora here. Welcome to Requiem for a Tuesday. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Check out all the links in the description below. We got lots of goodies. There's merch, Instagram, music, other places to listen to this, YouTube, lots of stuff. Go check all that out. I'm going to get right into it. As I alluded to, tragically, I'm here starting out discussing the passing of one David Lynch. I would say probably the greatest artist of the century, like in the past century, let's say 1925 to present, in terms of impact, overall body of work, diversity of work ability. Like, would I say, it's a weird thing. I would say that he is one of my favorite directors, but his movies don't necessarily all top out in my top rankings. I'd probably have to do I haven't thought this through this far in advance, but I'd probably have to do a top 10 to even get one or two of his movies in there. But the impact that they have means more than watching them, but they're also very entertaining to watch. Don't get me wrong. I don't know why I'm trying to break this guy down. I don't have the ability. He was doing things way beyond what anybody is even aware of, and it just kind of seems like anyone that was ever near the guy was just in awe of everything about him. As am I. I would say that I've probably done more work directly inspired by him than anyone else. I'd probably say he inspires me more than any other artist, Shout out Kanye, though. That's up there. Going back to my first little EP music I did fiddling around, there's Three Fine Pines, my first one. On Multiplex, we did a couple tracks back to back, inspired by Twin Peaks: The Return. There's probably more that I can't even think. Just being into industrial noise as a vibe. I don't know. His paintings are great. His shorts are very fun. Even if you are a great director, it does seem like there is something to being able to make a successful short. It's not nearly as impressive, really, ultimately, and I understand that, and I understand why. But man, he's just consistently churning out a lot of really good short films. Since his passing, a lot of his old advertisements have been getting shared. Shout out if you sent me any. But I've, just seen it. My feed just became everything I scrolled on because I kept looking at all of it. It just became so long. Your boy was devastated. I am still sad, obviously, but it was one of the rare moments where a famous person's passing, truly made me feel emotional. Because I don't even know, but I just guarantee that if I somehow bumped into David Lynch, he would be super nice to me. I don't see any reality in which that would be impossible. He truly just seems like a burst of joy in human form. Now, I'm sure that that's not entirely true. The man was divorced 4 times. No diss, I'm just saying, Guy gets ornery, perhaps. I don't know what to say that anyone else hasn't said. Go look at what, his former cast members that he frequently worked with are saying about him as a man. But, just him as an artist alone is enough. But to couple that, this is kind of my thing. I'm not into the personal lives of famous people. I think that is really odd. At the tabloid level, thinking you maybe even know what they may be like personally because you follow them on something or whatever, or you're going off of public appearances, which you should not. I don't assume that anyone doing anything is like a quote unquote good person. I am only interested in what they do. And if things come out about their personal life, I may or may not judge them based upon that. But I'm not one to say that that is a necessary thing to make a good artist. Controversial, maybe so. I don't care if you disagree. That's all right. We're allowed to do that. My point being, when it is added that, oh, this is actually like a great person also, that is a huge plus up for me. Now, I'm not going to look for it. I'm not going to look into it unless I, I'm just that fascinated by whoever it is. But I don't know if that's happened to me since I was like 18, that I'm like deep diving into really anything or anyone. Not anything, but like, oh, somebody bursts onto the scene. I'm not really going to look too much into anything. I just don't care nearly as much. I guess I'm an adult. Anywho, to the David Lynch is a good person thing, again, just elevates him even more. That is my point. And, to be such a proponent, like he just like preaches meditation, like that's chill. Like what a chill guy, And other than that, he's just like, keep dreaming, keep thinking. I support all of it. I have no notes for David Lynch, and he would hate it if I did, right? Who gives a fucking shit how long a fucking scene is, Just an all-time legend. Yeah. Fuck Netflix for denying to make his last project. And I will just say also for the record, the podcast side of me here, a lot of people are churning out like rankings and stuff. Number one, I think that's kind of inappropriate. The rankings are horrible. They're just horrible. I saw one that had Wild at Heart at like 10 out of 11 or, whatever the number is, it was second to last. Egregious. Wild at Heart rips, number one. It won the Palme d'Or, number two. So, I mean, what are we talking about? And I think Inland Empire was last, which I could see that, but Dune is last. I understand that people like want to reclaim Dune because, it's like been enough time and whatever. But when you watch it back, it just isn't that good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. And he thinks that they ruined his movie. So, like, you're just doing it to do it. It seems odd. It doesn't fit the actual qualifications of a reclamation in reception. But maybe that's just me. I just don't know. Like the 1-2 is the tough one. I mean, it's like between Mulholland and Blue Velvet. You could argue Firewalk with me, I think, but really the other two are just on such a high plane. It's like I think Mulholland is like the better artistic achievement and is like just bananas to watch. Like it's unbelievable. But I've seen Blue Velvet way more times. Does that mean that it's, ultimately the number one option? I don't know. But I've probably seen it more than any other. Twin Peaks probably second in that regard, actually. But that one took me a while to come around on, which maybe is a perk, technically, if you want to be pretentious about it. But those are probably the top three. I'm just doing this on the whim. This is not set in stone, but I feel like talking it out now because I criticized somebody else. So I should at least stumble upon something myself, wouldn't you say? I will also mention, unfortunately, it does appear that the reporting came out of his passing on the 16th. My birthday is the 15th, and apparently that is when he actually passed away. So that doesn't make me feel very good. I have been having terrible luck on my birthday. That's all I'm going to say. Past 2 years, just been unfortunate. January is really a bummer at all times. All right, so let's say those are 1 through 3 in whatever order I said, okay? I think I mean, to be honest, I do like Lost Highway a lot. I think I would go Lost Highway at 4, which is probably crazy. Or I want to watch that more. I would put Wild at Heart next because there are stretches where I'm less interested. And it's just a little much. Like the Willem Dafoe part, while being wild, is a little much. Certain things are just a little much, but I still like Wild at Heart. So we'll say Wild at Heart's 5. Okay? Ooh. What are we going to say? This is really tough to decide. I mean, I guess Eraserhead is 6. Elephant Man is 7. The Straight Story's 8. No, The Straight Story's 7. Elephant Man is 8. Sorry, everybody. Inland Empire's 9. And Dune is 10. Yeah, I like that. That's about right. I don't really like The Elephant Man. It's too straightforward for him. I like the weird parts that he put in. There's like that shit with the horse or whatever. That's weird. That shit's awesome. You could argue flipping Eraserhead too, wherever I put it. I don't love Eraserhead. I think it's an impressive thing considering how much of that he did on his own. But that's kind of a thing where I'd rather watch clips from it. And you know what? That's fine. That's fine. And I mean, obviously, Twin Peaks, the series. Nothing more to say there. The Return is incredible. I mean, just a legend. I mean, Twin Peaks, The Return is probably number one. He did claim that to be one film in 18 parts. Truly a loss, and it was tough dealing with. We will miss you, Mr. Lynch. If anybody is in any form of afterlife, it would be this man. So I pray that he is having a wonderful time. After that, I would like to discuss the news that has just been bestowed upon us. The Chicago Bears have hired Ben Johnson. This should have happened 1 year ago. I'm still iffy on everything. I'm not all the way bought in, but look, they made the right fucking call. Even if this fails, they got the hottest guy available. Everybody unanimously says this is the candidate of this coaching cycle. He's the dream of every team, and we got him. We did the right thing. It's already appearing that he's going to hire the former Saints head coach, Dennis Allen, who was a terrible head coach, but is a great D coordinator, and his experience as a head coach will at least be valuable in knowing he'll have his shit together running just the defense. So I don't hate that. I don't love it. It doesn't make me jump for joy. But that seems like a very, very solid hire. Would absolutely go bananas if we could pull the O-line coach from the Lions along with him. Ben Johnson, work your magic. I'm thrilled that you're here. We need 3 offensive line starters replaced, and they need to be above average, and their backups need to be good enough that they could play, okay? They don't need to be fucking practice squad level guys that we like their character and background. Okay? And then I'll be back in. But we need to sign 5 to 7, including the draft, offensive linemen. Interior for sure. If we get a new left tackle too, no offense, Braxton Jones, but I'm improve the lines. We need to. Ben Johnson. Thank fucking God. I don't know. Maybe Kevin Warren isn't this big oaf everybody makes him out to be. I've had respect for him because of his accomplishments. I understand he tried to shut down the Big Ten season. I don't care that much about college football. Speaking of which, Notre Dame, I have money on them to win because they are my team. I have not been that into college football the past 3 years. So it's unfortunate that they finally make it back. And I told myself I was going to pay attention to them this year. And I paid attention, but I didn't watch enough games. So it's going to be harder to claim it, but I'm going to watch it. Go Irish. Okay? For those of you who don't know, Chicago has no college football team. Your options are Notre Dame, and they're like 2+ hours away. Northwestern, and they're in Evanston, but they're bad. They're also like an academic-y school, but bad at football. And then there's Illinois, which is 2+ hours away, and same thing, bad at football, but not like they're a respectable school, I suppose. That's what people who go there tell you. So I don't know how biased that is. To me, if you're in the middle of a fucking farm town, it's either really good or shit. So I assume it's kind of shitty. Especially all the dumb fucks I know. Just kidding, fellas. Anyway. Yeah, and they suck, and that's far. So they're good and they're close enough. I've yet to go to a game, and, the better they are, the harder that will be to do so. But hope we pull it out. They probably won't. But fuck Ohio State, and they lost to fucking Michigan. It's embarrassing. They're embarrassing. Anywho, let's get to the Brutalist. The intro was as long as it was, those other segments, because I don't have that much to say about this movie. So this is touted, coming out of all the festivals, all the whatever, all the film bros are fucking coming in their fucking, slacks or whatever they wear, their fucking puffy vest bullshit. Film bros and tech bros, I feel like, overlap in wardrobe. Maybe that's just my broad observation. I am very conflicted about my feelings for this movie. So this movie is an original epic about a Hungarian man who escapes the Holocaust and immigrates to America. Starts off in New York, moves to Philly, and then basically settles down in Philly, outside of the Philly area. His wife is stuck behind, and he kind of, at first he kind of gets it, like they were just like pulled apart, war torn, not a lot of money, whatever. And then eventually it's just like, what's going on? What's taking so long? And then he's like, it's taken me forever. They haven't, I guess, they take care of his niece because, the Holocaust. So, it takes a long time, and then they save up money, and they get a bunch of information together, and then they bring the wife over. There's more to that. I'll get to that as I go, so whatever. So they're originally there with family. He kind of wears out his welcome with the family they're staying with. He lives in, like, homeless shelters and stuff, because he also lost his job in that regard, so he's kind of just like an unemployed architect, so he's useless. I forget. He was probably working some type of job. I don't really remember, honestly. The movie is very long, and that's okay. We'll get to that also. And then they get a job. Oh, well, he stays working. He stays working for the family member before he ends up in the homeless thing, because they get a job for a rich guy. This is what I missed in the middle. To build a library at his house, and then he hates it, and then they don't pay. And since he didn't pay, his cousin lets him go and kicks him out. So he's homeless and jobless for a while, and then eventually his wife comes, and I don't remember whether it doesn't really matter. The wife comes with the girl, and it's revealed that she actually has been fucking sick the whole time and is in a wheelchair. So she's probably like stalling, and she's like, I was afraid to tell you, whatever. So you assume he's going to be like, bitch, I'm an artist. Like, I already was going to neglect you. I'm out. But no, they have like a very strong, odd Eastern European relationship. As they tend to have, those crooks. Anyway, I don't know what that means. So the rich guy is then like, I was a dumbass. I also then looked into your background. You're like really dope. All your old work's really dope. I want to hire you to build this like crazy ass thing. His mom was dying at the time, so that is the rich guy. So that is why like he was so upset about the library thing. And his mom died at that moment, and he's like, that was all like fate and whatever. So I'm hiring you to be the guy. And he, builds this crazy thing. They show his old buildings, yada, 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 whatever. There's an intermission once the building starts, which I applaud the intermission. This movie's runtime is 3 hours and 35 minutes. I believe the intermission is baked into that. So the movie's really 3 hours and 20 minutes. I could use 10 minutes instead of 15 for the intermission, but I'm not complaining. I think it really did help the movie a lot. I think if I just sat there the whole time, it would have started to get tedious and bother me. Now, the second half gets wild. I forgot to mention that after he starts living in the shelter, he becomes a heroin addict. But pretty casually and pretty functionally, it only kind of fucks him up a couple of times. He just like shows up to shit a little strung out, but it never really affects anything. Until they're in the Italian mountains selecting marble, and then he's really strung out on heroin, and then they're like sleeping in the caves, and the rich guy fucks him in the ass by force. To like show him that he's in charge, like some real like 18, 16, 1200s, probably 1200s, that sounds about right, type shit. Also though, are you really that dominant if he's weak on his own accord? Like, it's not like you beat the shit out of him and then did it. He like did it to a vulnerable, weak person. It's just wild. It was just wild. I would say too much. Because if anything, if it would have been like, I'm secretly super gay and like in love with you, that would have made more sense, because the rich guy spends a ton of time just praising the guy unprompted. So after he sodomizes him, he's basically like, I don't know if this is a racial thing or if he just means like artists or both, but he's basically like, you people are all the same, like you come asking for handouts. And it's like, well, not really, like you hired him to do a job and he's looking to be paid. So I didn't really understand all that. So anyway, whatever. And then eventually they build the house, they build the whole building and whatever. And then it's revealed that he was so pushy. He wasn't even that pushy, which I'll get into. They like want to change a few things and he's like, no. And then they're like, no. And then he's like, I'll take it from my cut of the pay. And then they're like, all right, yeah, whatever. And then they just keep criticizing a bunch of shit that he's like unwilling to change, because he like connected they're like separate entity buildings, but he interconnected all of them. And they're like, we don't need to interconnect all these. And he fights for that. And then it's revealed at the end that it resembles the concentration camps that the couple lived in and escaped from. And so that is why it was so important that he was in there. And that's basically the gist of the movie. Now, what I don't like about this movie, you don't learn anything about the guy, really. He immigrates over. They show him like sketching every now and then he just builds incredible stuff. His buildings that they show from Hungary are like big Brutalist masterpiece buildings. But that's great. That's it. They're whatever. We don't learn anything about his personality. It's like they kind of allude that he's just like, he likes to fuck because he goes to like a whorehouse, but then he like doesn't get hard. That's how it starts. And she just like makes fun of him for being a bitch. Whatever. And then when his wife finally comes, they get like super. They just have like weird sexual energy and they fuck a bunch and whatever. And then he's just like a soft-spoken guy. Like I don't know what the guy's like. And then he's just like on heroin. And then he just has like good designs. And then he builds them. Like it's just like pretty empty. The scale of it is kind of impressive, but they kind of literally only do the building stuff in like a quick stop motion montage. They have like scale of this building. This movie's like if Oppenheimer was about building one building. Like it doesn't need the runtime. It doesn't get too tedious with its runtime. But this just didn't deserve the length. There's not enough going on to keep it interesting for this long. Like, yeah, there's a lot of like beautiful, like long shots of outside, and it was shot on this VistaVision format. And I saw it in IMAX. It's like beautiful, great photography throughout the whole thing. But it just doesn't need to be this long, just straight up. It somehow only cost $10 million. I would guess that even it's being touted for its low budget. I was still assuming 30, 40. So the fact that it was made for that little money is impressive. But really, it's because of the format they use that gives it that grand big scale. Because ultimately, he's just kind of moving room to room and talking to people, and then they're at like one construction site. And he makes some furniture for his cousin at the furniture store at the beginning. So ultimately, there's not a whole lot going on. And then they go to Europe, and then that's great. But same thing. It's kind of just like, we're just at a location that looks big, but not a lot of like big things are happening. Because ultimately, like I said, it's not like the movie's presented as like the mind of a tortured great artist and what they have to endure. And it's like, well, really, he had to endure the Holocaust. And then as an immigrant, he had to endure like needing to start over. And then once that happened, he just had to deal with like needing to be just thought of as less than because he's a Jewish immigrant, which will never go away. But ultimately, he had to deal with being raped in the ass. So that'll get anybody, though, you know? And then he kind of just starts like being a dick after getting raped in the ass. And then his wife goes to their house and is like, you raped my husband in the ass. And then he disappears. I don't know if it's implied that he killed himself or not. They don't reveal what happened to the guy. It's also kind of implied that the rich guy's son was raping their niece, but that's less clear because we didn't see it, but I think that was happening as well. And then at the end, they're like, fuck this, and they move to Jerusalem. And then there's like, it ends with him like being old in a wheelchair at some like reclamation like of his work, like a career spanning thing, and they show all his buildings and they're all great. And then the one that the movie is mainly about is like viewed as like his magnum opus. So yeah, I don't know. It's like Oppenheimer and The Wire or The Night Of mixed together, where somebody like descends into madness because of their new circumstance. Yeah, it's like The Night Of, literally. He becomes like a prisoner to this rich guy, and then, or just America and whatever, capitalism is the enemy, whatever. And, you know, he ends up doing heroin and becoming evil after he gets raped in the butt. Checks out. And then I will say the music is great in this movie, and the movie takes place over like 40 years, whatever. The music is constantly updating with the times to the point where at the very end, when he's at his like tribute thing that I was talking about, the music is like 80s, and they're shooting it with like a handheld like VHS camera a little bit. And so the movie is constantly like slowly updating everything and like outfits and all of that as time moves forward and people are aging visibly and all of that stuff, obviously. But to sync like the visual and musical style along with the time flow was impressive and a nice attention to detail. Like I think the movie's very well directed. It's just like underbaked. The wife character is kind of just annoying. It's like a Nolan woman, honestly. She's like strong and independent, but she's just kind of yelling a lot about stuff. I didn't love that. It's one of those things. Like it was good and the performances were good and everything was well acted and shot. I think the script was just kind of weak and it could have been shorter as a result, but probably still needed an intermission. Like maybe if this thing were like 3 hours flat with the intermission, so it was like 2:45, maybe it's a lot better. I also think that it's like a metaphor for like an artist trying to make a movie. That seems pretty clear to me. Where the artist from the jump is like, I want complete creative control, and then even if you're granted creative control, once it actually comes to like budgeting and planning and stuff, then people come to you with like, oh, if we do it this way, we'll get less budget. And then you go, but that's my vision. And then they go, you people always think with your fucking vision. Like, I'm the one with the money. I'm the one making this thing. And then the artist is like, oh, they just fucked me in the ass. I thought I had creative control. Like, that seems like a pretty clear metaphor to me. I was thinking of that in the moment. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it seems pretty likely to me. Seems bloody likely. But Brody's great. And I mean, I don't know. It seemed like this should have just been about a real guy, like straight up, and then maybe they could have had like more detail and information. Like it seemed like he was trying to be a composite character, so that way they didn't get into too much detail, like by default, and that is not ideal for me. So that just didn't work. But I'm not upset that I went. Like, I liked it. I understand a lot of the praise for it. The guy's a good filmmaker. Like I said, the music was great. Everything about it technically was fantastic. We needed to do a little more editing or a little more development or reveal or something. Like maybe he should have built like 2 or 3 buildings first in like rapid succession, or he was like, I'm working on a bowling alley. Like, could we have shown him working on the bowling alley in the meantime? They kind of forego a lot of what you would think would be the actional part or action-y part of showing like a lot of development or him on the site a lot. And it just seemed like they couldn't do that stuff because of budgeting. But it's what I was missing. I mean, a lot of this movie was just like, oh, here's a still of the development as it is getting bigger and really going. But then here's 2 guys in a room talking about it instead. If that makes sense. But Guy Pearce was awesome. Adrian Brody was awesome. So, I don't know. If you didn't already know about this movie, nothing I say is going to convince you to go see it. If you wanted to go see it, you should go see it, regardless of what I say. But this seems like a tough sell. So, I'm not really pitching this to anybody anyway. Most people are like, oh, so long. And it's just like, yeah, like you're just annoying. If you're not interested in the subject matter, then yeah, you won't like it. Don't see it. But I still find it so obtuse, if that's even appropriate right now. Just people that complain about a movie being long. I'll say this over and over and over again. If it feels like it doesn't need to be as long as it is, then it should be shorter. But like if you tell me There Will Be Blood is too long, you're wrong and haven't seen it. Or are just an idiot if you have. It's perfect. It should not be 1 second shorter. I don't think Titanic should be any shorter. I don't think the Avatar film should be any shorter. I don't think The Godfather should be shorter. Like, I don't see why you would think that. That makes no sense to me. And if you think that, and at the same time we'll sit and watch 3 episodes of an hour-long show, binging, then you're just ignorant. And that's that rant. And I've done that rant 1, 2, 3 dozen times already on this platform, and I will do it 10 dozen more. I stand by it. But now for this one, if you were just like, man, this was too long, I technically can't disagree. Ultimately, it didn't super bother me. There were really long stretches where it's just voiceover of the letters they're writing to each other. Those should have just been way shorter letters for the movie. I couldn't stand those. Those drove me crazy. They could have been read faster or something, or just been shorter. I didn't like that. So that's the Brutalist. We're going to wrap up here in just a short minute, but we will get into briefly the football update. So I didn't do that last week with Justice because he doesn't know anything about football and he always interrupts. So I had the Chargers versus Houston in the wild card round. Huge mistake. I got Baltimore correct. I got Buffalo correct. Philly correct. Washington and incorrect. And the Rams correct. So now, not with the preseason. I mean, in the preseason, I did not even have the right. I didn't even get close to the right teams actually in there. So we don't got to worry about that. What did I have here? Hold on. Sorry, if you hear me ruffling through my papers, it's because I am 100 years old. Oh, I didn't even save it. So it doesn't matter. In the divisional round, I did pick Baltimore because I preseason had them in the Super Bowl, but I love Josh Allen more than Lamar Jackson, but I do love both of those players. I ultimately would have been good either way. And then I think I did pick Philly. Yeah, why wouldn't I have picked Philly over the Rams? I definitely picked Philly over the Rams, and then I picked Detroit over Washington, so that was bunk. And ultimately, I knew the Chiefs were going to win, but I picked the Texans just because I wish that would happen. Fun fact, going to be in Buffalo for the AFC title game, so it is extra unfortunate that the Chiefs didn't win. Me and Justice, our birthdays are 2 weeks apart, so it is the week in between. Didn't even put it together that it's AFC title game weekend. And the other place we were considering was Kansas City. So either way, that's interesting and a big oversight ultimately. I mean, I'm picking Buffalo, but Kansas City is probably going to win again. I honestly am picking Washington over Philly. You can mark that right here. In the preseason, I had the Bills over the Ravens, so the seeding was just different. Or I'm sorry, I had the Ravens playing the Bills and beating the Bills in the title game. And then I had Philly in the title game against San Francisco. So that obviously did not work out. So I did get one of each of the team, one team in each championship game correct. Not a big accomplishment at all. It's weird, though, that I was like, Philly, I gave them too many wins and I had them advancing too far, and that was the only one that was accurate. So I didn't even believe in it anyway. I absolutely want Buffalo to win, and I want whoever will lose to Buffalo to win the NFC Championship. So that probably actually would be the Commander. It doesn't really matter. I think either of those teams could beat Buffalo, but would be underdogs to them. But I'm going to make my picks Buffalo and Washington officially. I think Jaden Daniels is the first rookie to make it to a Soupy, and then hopefully he loses. And Josh finally gets one. And then, hey, maybe Lamar finally gets one next year, and everything evens out. Wouldn't that be nice? All right. That's all we got. That was Sports Corner. This has been Requiem for a Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in. There may not be an episode next week because of the Buffalo trip, but we may just get together and do the recap. We'll see. But I'll let you guys know. Well, I won't really let you know. There will either be an episode Tuesday or not. So thank you for tuning in. Check out all the links in the description below. Rate, review, and subscribe. Share these episodes. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Tell your dad. Tell everybody. And remember, I are fat. You are fat. We are fat. Calculator.